Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's topic for discussion is beating the donor data blues. Do you sometimes feel stressed or confused when accessing your database? If so, you've come to the right place to help alleviate those feelings, because today we're going to talk about how to get a grasp on what's going on in your database and how to use it to meet your goals. This webinar is not intended for any product demonstrations. It's more of a thought leadership conversation. But before we jump into the presentation, I want to bring your attention to the questions box. Feel free to ask any questions throughout the webinar, and I'll do my best to answer them at the end of the presentation if time allows. But if not, don't worry, I have your contact information and I'll reach out directly to address any of your questions. So before we get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Tamara, and I am the Sales Enablement Engineer here at Omatic, and I've been involved with several different nonprofits for more than 11 years, while also dedicating my time to customers in multiple industries to develop and succeed in technology and growth. I live in the beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, and I'm able to volunteer my time to local nonprofits in the area, including the Ronald McDonald House and We Are Family. For those of you that are new to our webinar series, let me tell you about Omatic. Omatic software has been around for quite a while now. We were founded back in 2002 and have been a dedicated Blackbaud partner since 2004. We find joy in supporting all sectors of nonprofits, and our client base just continues to grow. We're currently serving more than 2,600 clients worldwide. And while our client base is growing, so is the Omatic family. We have over 75 employees, from developers to professional services. When I say professional services, I'm talking about those team members that work with you on all of our products so that you're able to use them to the fullest, whether it's on training or improving your business practices. We are here to assist, because our goal is allowing a nonprofit access to the data needed to drive fundraising strategy and free up the time needed for execution. Bottom line, if we had a mission statement, that would be it. So for today's conversation, there are a few concepts I want to make sure that we touch on. One, a healthy database is critical to the success of your organization. Two, an audit is the most efficient and effective way to maintain a fruitful database. And three, the results of an audit impact a lot of people in a lot of ways within your organization. Before we talk about an audit, it's important to remember why this is so critical. And that's because the health of your database directly impacts your ability to interact with the individuals that feed your organization and help you achieve your mission. And those are your supporters. No matter your role at your organization, your supporters are critical to the success of your nonprofit. Therefore, their willingness and their ability to engage and donate is going to be influenced by their experience. So let's take an example here. Let's take Robert Hernandez. He's a major donor for us, and he's going to go online and make a donation. What we've seen happen is someone mistyping their information, not noticing the error, and continuing with the process. So here he's typed in Rovert. And what that's going to do is it's going to produce a generic email to him acknowledging his donation, saying, "Hey Rovert, thanks for your donation. Because to the system, this looks like a new donor." So this is now creating a duplicate record. It's creating data errors, misspelled names. Not only do we have those system errors now, but our gift officer is meeting with Robert and has no idea that he donated a gift or any other information that may have come through with his online activity. Bottom line, that's not a great experience for either party. Data accuracy matters. Blackbaud found that misspellings of a donor's name resulted in a 10% decrease in retention and a 12% decrease in giving. On the flip side, a great supporter experience is where we can capture a data error like Rovert versus Robert and can continue to understand that this is the same person. This enables us to have a quicker response because we know who he is, and we can personalize, a thank you to him, like, thanks, Robert, for your support over the past 5 years. We appreciate it. This creates a positive reaction from Robert when he has that face-to-face meeting, because we're able to have a conversation that goes full circle about everything he's done for us. If you've attended a webinar in the past, you've probably heard this quote before, but it's so fitting for today's topic. Penelope Burke said that 93% of donors would give again and 64 would give more if they just received a prompt and personal thank you. I try to think of something that my parents taught me when growing up, and it's probably something we've all heard before, the golden rule: treat others the way you wish to be treated. If we apply this to our supporters, imagine the impact it could have on the organization. So engagement is critical, and it's driven by our system of record, because that's where all the information comes back to. That's where all the interactions are kept, all that information that you need. Donor behavior is determined by the actions you take to influence their attitude, whether it's positively or negatively. So these databases that we're using to track this information and the interactions is key, because it's going to help us determine what the next step is to influence our supporters. What should my next message be? What should I include? Et cetera, et cetera. But while data can do so much for us, it can also cause some problems. How can data damage your supporter experience? Having data in multiple locations and not in one place can cause issues when communicating with your supporters, because you don't have all the information about them. Maybe they volunteered in an event, but that's on a spreadsheet and not in Razor's Edge, which is where you're looking at. Or what if they have information, but it's on two separate records? Having those blind spots can hinder your impact with your supporters. Now, fuzzy data spots comes from data inaccuracies, like misspelled names or incorrect relationships. Maybe you've contacted an outdated email address or phone number. What we want to do is continue to use our system of record as a tool to track this information, preventing those blind spots and fuzzy data whenever possible. So I want you to ask yourself, how confident are you that your team is using your database the same way? Do you believe that everyone is tracking and entering data the same way you do it? Do you know that you have a full view of every action a supporter is doing for your organization? Some of you maybe think, absolutely, we're all on the same page. Everyone is using the system of record. We all have the exact same goals. Others may be thinking, yeah, not so much. Having confidence in your database is key to a successful supporter communication. So if you're wondering, or you have slight concern about your database and who's all using it the correct way, you may want to think about a system audit. What a system audit is going to allow you to do is see if you're leveraging your system as a tool to help you, or if you just have an expensive Rolodex. How do you know if you need a database audit or not? Maybe you've noticed some issues, but you really need to gather facts to validate these issues. Another issue may be turnover. Maybe you have a new database manager, or you are the new database manager. Someone new is entering in or managing the database at hand. Other reasons may be the reports that you're pulling are leaving you feeling a little weary, and you want to better align your database for reporting processes. It could be that your database has passed through different management styles. Coding could have changed a few times, or the data you're collecting and storing is not consistent across the board. We know that Razor's Edge provides a lot of ways to collect information and track it, but not every organization is going to do it the same. So checking in on what's going on in the database is a pretty big deal. Using Razor's Edge at a previous nonprofit is awesome, but really understanding how they utilized it and what they tracked is important to make sure that correct information is being logged and tracked and gathered from your supporters. Something we've seen before is resistance of using a database. Some people prefer to use Excel. That's what they're comfortable with. We touched on this earlier, having separate systems can lead to those blind spots that we want to avoid at all costs. We want to make sure we're all on the same page. So now that we've asked and answered the question of if it's needed, when does the audit need to happen? Well, the answer is now. A few things to consider before an audit is if you're planning to move to hosting or NXT, it's best to take a look before that move takes place. If you're planning to import or migrate a large, amount of data into Razor's Edge, let's take a look at what you have before you bring more into it. If you're planning to move off Razor's Edge completely, dig into your data and discover what's going on so the best decisions and conversations can be had. So if any of these scenarios sound like something's going on in your organization, an audit really should be in your future. Other scenarios are if someone is saying, it's always been done this way. Well, does that make it correct? Does that make it accurate? Is it efficient anymore? Maybe so, or maybe not, but either way, it may be time to reconnect and regroup on internal processes. If, data results are inconsistent, when we think about results, we think of everyone getting the same thing. So if you're not, let's take a step back and figure out what's going on. We look at an audit as kind of like a physical, a way to check in on how things are going and if new processes should be applied. We know what an audit is, what it can do for the organization and when we should do it. Now the next step is selling it internally, getting everyone on board. If you don't have the luxury of signing off on a project like this, that's okay. What we've done is we've combined a few helpful tips to showcase how this will impact everyone in the organization, really selling the value of the audit. Audits don't just benefit the individual entering the data, it really will impact everyone on any level. They may not see it directly, but it definitely drives decisions that they are making. We recommend including individuals who are able to recognize current issues as well as those that may have a more strategic outcome need. One thing you want to make clear is that an audit is not a treatment to an issue. It's the diagnosis of it. Committing to obtaining and understanding is easier than the commitment to make the change. It takes time, but every step counts. All we're doing here is uncovering and identifying ways that we can use our system of record as a tool and not just a function. So I mentioned a few times that the impact an audit can make, but what exactly do I mean when I say that? Well, how would a healthier database help others in your organization? A good way to think about it is, what is a current pain point for them? What's keeping them up at night? We have this little chart here, and, for an executive level, they may be more strategic or financial in nature, while someone in IT is thinking more from an operational standpoint. You can see here in this chart that we broke it down level for level for you when you're thinking about how it's impacting those key players. Now, where do we start? Take a step back and ask yourself, what are we trying to accomplish right now? You may not be in the midst of a campaign right now, but you still have goals that you're hoping to meet. How do you think that goal can be met? These are the kind of questions that your team can talk through when making a plan for conducting a database audit. Before you do an audit of your database, take a look at what you have. Maybe you have a ticketing system or online event and donation forms. List out these systems that you're using and what they're providing to your daily life. Do these systems integrate? Do they work together? How are they working together? Maybe think about making a data flow chart to see how everything's connected. Figure out what they are tracking for you and your organization. Are you seeing, repeating patterns? Are all these systems needed? Ask, what is the system of record, for different data types? Next, figure out your goals. Where do we want to go? How long do we want to take to get there? Do we have any capital campaigns on the horizon that would help get us there? Asking these questions will put everyone in the same mindset and on the same page. It's also important to document your internal processes and guidelines, such as gift entry related documents or how you're entering those constituents. What information do you need from constituents for them to be entered? Any reporting requirements? If you're sending out direct mailers, what kind of practices do you do with that? And if you don't have these processes laid out, that's okay. You're not alone. Just make a commitment to build some as an outcome to your next phase. So now it's time to audit. A common saying that we hear is, we don't know what we don't know. So we've put together some suggestions that will be helpful for you for your audit so that you will know. Take a look at your tables. Look at the entry usage. How many times are you using these tables? Is it still needed? How many, unused tables do you have? Are things misaligned? The same thing goes for your attributes and your fields. Taking a look at what's going on and what's being used and what's not being used is really important to discover what you really need. Take a look at your business rules and see if any changes need to be applied or things just need to be reworked. Don't forget about your addresses and your salutation formulas. We recommend looking at the constituent data inconsistencies. Evaluate your notes. Make sure that the notes aren't just a dumping ground with no direction. Do you have addresses for them? Is everything standardized? Do you have, if it's 123 Main Street, is it street spelled out or is it abbreviated? Take a peek at the constituency codes as well. Are they still needed there for that constituent? So now let's kind of review what we talked about today, because I know I threw a lot at you. So we're going to go back to our key concepts. We know that without a healthy database, clear decisions cannot be made. Your conversations with your supporters will suffer, which can really make an impact on their future giving to you. We know there's a lot of competition out there for different nonprofits, so treat your supporters well so they'll continue to donate to you. Maintaining an actionable database is critical, because if little things start to slip through, your organization cannot be as efficient. And lastly, we see that audits bring everyone in the organization together to regroup and get on the same page for how the database content will affect the choices made. So as I said earlier today, this was just opening up the conversation about database audits. So if you wish to see how Omatic Solutions can help you accomplish an audit, I invite you to join me next Thursday, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, for the second part of this conversation of keeping your Razor's Edge database healthy with Omatic. So I'm going to take a look at my questions box and see if there's any questions that come through. If you have any, feel free to type away. I'm here to help. If you think of anything after the webinar, feel free to reach out to us at info@omaticsoftware.com. Take a look at our website too if you want to learn more about what Omatic has to offer, what other solutions we have. Maybe you want to see what other webinars we have coming up, or you see how our clients are using Omatic to grow their mission, to grow their organization. We have so much information on our website, so I really recommend you taking a look at that. So I'm going to stay on the line for a little bit longer to see if you guys have any questions, but that's all I have to show today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that it was beneficial, and I really hope to see you next week.